You're not depressed. You still laugh sometimes. You still function, but there's a particular feeling you can't name. Not pain, not despair, more like nothing. You finish a day and it doesn't feel like you lived it. You finish a week and nothing inside you moved. You finish a year and it's hard to describe what it was for. That's the kind of emptiness most adults don't talk about because it is not dramatic enough to justify. It's just quiet enough to normalize. And that's exactly why it stays. Most adults aren't collapsing. They're performing. They're competent, reliable, responsible. They keep appointments. They pay bills. They answer messages. And because the outside looks stable, they assume the inside should feel stable too. But it doesn't, because emptiness isn't always the absence of happiness. Sometimes it's the absence of desire. You don't feel a strong yes to anything. You don't feel a strong no either. You just continue, not because you chose the day, but because the day arrived. Your life runs like a well-oiled machine, but you feel like a ghost operating it. This is the quiet crisis of modern adulthood. High function, low presence. You're physically there for everything, but emotionally, you're not checked in. You're acing the test of adulting, but you've forgotten why you're taking the test in the first place. You're doing everything right, but it doesn't feel right. Pay attention to the language adults live inside. I should respond. I should be grateful. I should be productive. I should have it together. Should is a useful word. It keeps your life from falling apart. It's the framework that holds society together, making sure we show up, contribute, and meet our obligations. But if should becomes the main engine of your life, your inner world eventually goes quiet. Because should doesn't create appetite. It creates compliance. And when your life is built from compliance, you can become very successful at living a life you don't emotionally inhabit. You become an expert at fulfilling expectations, both external and self-imposed. You get the promotion, you maintain the relationships, you keep the house clean, you tick every box. That's one definition of emptiness. When your calendar is full, but your appetite is missing. Your schedule is packed with things you are supposed to do, but your heart isn't in any of them. You're just moving from one obligation to the next. A passenger in a car you're supposed to be driving. When you're young, wanting is loud. You want things badly. You want friends, attention, experiences, freedom. Your desires are raw, unapologetic, and they drive you forward. But adulthood rewards you for being less intense. Don't overreact. Don't be dramatic. Don't take it personally. Be mature. Be the reasonable one in the room. Over time, mature becomes a synonym for numb but polite. You learn to soften your preferences so you don't become inconvenient. You learn to keep the peace. You learn to be easy to deal with. You say, I don't mind, when you really do. You say whatever's easiest when you have a strong preference. You swallow your opinions to avoid a debate. And it works, you become stable. You're seen as reliable, flexible, a team player. But there's a hidden cost. When you mute your wants long enough, you stop hearing them. Then one day you realize, you're not unhappy, you're just unclaimed by your own life. It's like you've turned the volume down on your own soul for so long that you've forgotten what its music even sounds like. A lot of modern life is emotional outsourcing. Instead of generating meaning, you consume meaning. Shows tell you what to feel. Algorithms tell you what to want. Social media feeds give you temporary intensity without requiring anything from you. You scroll through travel photos and feel a flicker of adventure. You watch a dramatic series finale and feel a surge of catharsis. It's not that entertainment is evil. It's that it can replace the harder work, making your own life emotionally real. It's a convenient substitute. Why go through the messy, difficult process of creating your own joy, your own drama, your own purpose, when you can just tap a screen and have a professionally produced version delivered to you? And then you notice something disturbing. You feel more during someone else's story than you feel during your own week. The fictional lives on screen feel more vibrant and significant than your own lived reality. You don't need stronger stimulation. You need a life that can produce sensation without borrowing it. Because emptiness grows when your strongest emotions come from things you didn't build. Here's something most adults won't admit. Emptiness is sometimes grief in disguise. Not grief for a person. Grief for a self. The self you were before you became realistic. Before you became practical. Before you traded curiosity for certainty. You don't miss your childhood. You miss your permission. Permission to want things without justification. Permission to try something and be terrible at it. Permission to change your mind. Permission to be unfinished, a work in progress. Adulthood often demands that we have it all figured out, that we choose a path and stick to it. We're pressured to be consistent, to have a solid identity. Adults call it being responsible. But sometimes it is quietly mourning the parts of you that were never allowed to fully develop, the artist, the adventurer, the philosopher, the musician you might have been. And because nobody holds funerals for unfinished lives, you carry that grief as emptiness. It's a quiet, unnamed sorrow for the potential that was shelved in the name of practicality. Most people treat emptiness as proof that something is wrong with them. They think, I have a good life, so I shouldn't feel this way. I must be broken or ungrateful. But emptiness is often a signal that your inner world is underfed. Not with pleasure, with truth. Truth meaning your real preferences, your real curiosity, your real pace, not the approved, edited, and presentable version of you that gets the nods and smiles. If you haven't felt alive in a long time, it's rarely because life has nothing to offer. It's because your life is arranged around what's manageable, not what's meaningful. And meaning isn't a grand, abstract purpose that you have to discover on a mountaintop. Sometimes meaning is smaller than that. Meaning can be, I chose this, I wanted this, I'm here on purpose. Emptiness fades when your day contains evidence that you're not just surviving it, but actively participating in it. It's the difference between being dragged along by the current and actually deciding to swim. Forget advice like, be positive or practice gratitude. While well-intentioned, that's not the medicine for this kind of emptiness. That's like putting a bandage on a nutrient deficiency. What helps is something quieter, relearning appetite, not hunger for food. Appetite for experience. It starts small. What do you genuinely enjoy without needing to post it online? What are you truly curious about without needing to monetize it or turn it into a side hustle? What do you want to learn without needing it to be a resume builder or proof of your productivity? Emptiness doesn't end when you fix your life in some grand, dramatic way. It ends when your life contains something unnecessary but true. Something you do even if it didn't improve your image, your finances, or your future prospects. Something you do just because you want to. Because emptiness thrives in lives where everything must be useful. It starves in the presence of genuine, purposeless wanting. Most adults don't feel empty because they have nothing. They feel empty because they're living without appetite. They built a life that functions and forgot to build a life that feels. They have the house, the job, the family, the stability. On paper, it's perfect. But it lacks flavor, texture, and the feeling of being truly lived. And maybe the most unsettling truth is this. You can be surrounded by comfort and still be starving. Not for money, not for attention, not for success. You can be starving for a life that you can actually recognize as yours. A life that feels less like a performance and more like an honest expression of who you are. Thank you for watching.